Thank you for taking the time to do this interview for us, for Agora.
You're welcome.
Would you give us more details about the report regarding the foreign interference? Which are the main points?
Okay. The Congress of the Council of Europe has become increasingly concerned about the potential for foreign interference in both local and regional elections. Although this is perhaps often perceived as a much larger national and international issue, our election observation teams have, when they've been in various countries and in conversation with academics, with journalists, with politicians, and also with the judiciary in various countries, have become more and more aware that there's the potential for foreign interference in local and regional elections. And that interference comes in a variety of different ways. Quite often it can be where a state doesn't have particular control over the amount of finance in which a candidate can spend, and there will be some candidates who perhaps receive money from overseas or from backgrounds that aren't particularly clear.
And if we talk about Moldova, for example, what makes it vulnerable?
Well, I think it's not just Moldova. Lots of countries are vulnerable. There are countries who are vulnerable on a whole range of levels. Those that perhaps are experimenting with electronic voting, that's one high-risk area. Other areas include things like, as I say, the amount of money which individual candidates spend on their election campaigns. I think the other thing we're concerned about as well is that when national and presidential elections occur on the same day, or European elections occur on the same day as local and regional elections, you get spillover from national campaigns into local campaigns. And many of those national campaigns, and you see many of them documented, in fact you've seen candidates suspended from election campaigns because of alleged foreign interference. So yeah, we have serious concerns that is filtering down to local and regional levels.
When talking about Russia, how does Russia adapt its strategies?
Well, I think it's not just Russia. There are lots of countries which have a malign influence when it comes to wishing to undermine democracy. China, Russia, and many other states, there are people who have various agendas to disrupt democracy. A lot of that is done either through direct finance or it is done through social media interference. Lots of campaigning for one particular candidate or posing questions to other candidates in the election in a very negative way. A lot of this is repetitive stuff, and a lot of it comes from basically cyberbot farms where it's either electronically generated or indeed people are being employed to deploy a range of tactics across social media.
And there are a lot of conspiracy theories that make people afraid, especially on TikTok.
It is a concern, but at the same time, we should not be afraid to say to people, you should exercise your democratic right and go out and vote. And it's up to you to make up your own mind based on the information which you've got from candidates. But if that's false information, or if it's false information about another candidate or another political party, then it's up to the citizen to be savvy. It's up to the citizen to work out for themselves what they believe is in their best interests in delivering local and regional services.
So the education would be a solution for the long term?
Absolutely, and that's one of the fundamental things that we in the Council of Europe, and particularly in the Congress of Local and Regional Authorities, undertake. We have lots of good democracy building projects which start all the way from elementary schools through secondary schools to students at university.
But for the short term, what would be the solutions?
Well, there are no immediate solutions. It is, I think at this point in time, it is more a case of making people aware of the potential for influence. And I think when you're aware of it, you'll actually be able to see it around you and think, I need to be more cautious in the way in which I approach what I read in newspapers, what I watch on the TV, what I get by way of social media feeds. And my advice to people is look at all of those and then just sort of see where the path to democracy lies through them all.
And what are the key risks, for example, for Moldova for upcoming elections?
Well, I think the key risks are no different for Moldova than anyone else. They are the potential risks for certain foreign countries to want to influence the outcome of your elections. And mostly that comes through electronic social media. But some of it does come, particularly in countries where people can be influenced by small amounts of money by comparison to some wealthier states, where it's perhaps more difficult to influence an election by the amount of money that's spent. Unfortunately, I have been not necessarily in Moldova, but on many of the election missions that I've been on, we have seen examples of candidates or their parties paying quite often very small amounts of money to groups of perhaps usually older voters, or perhaps groups of families that come to vote together. So it's that type of influence that people need to be aware of.
And about Romania, it was extraordinary to see a situation like this there.
And I think we have to be wary of those situations, and we have to be very conscious of, is the state acting, because in this case this is a state saying through its judicial processes that certain people are banned from standing for election. That's a very serious step to take. And I'm not for one moment suggesting that they are wrong in doing that, but they have got to go through the appropriate judicial processes, and people have to have confidence in those judicial processes. And then, yes, it's absolutely right that if somebody is beyond reasonable doubt that they have committed an offence, then they should be excluded.
Do you think European countries, EU countries, are also at risk?
I think all countries are at risk. Yes, and I don't think how sophisticated or old a democracy you are that you shouldn't be alert to this type of influence.
In your opinion, why is this propaganda, why it works? The Russian propaganda, the Russia strategy?
A lot of it is very sophisticated, and it lends to messages that people think they want to hear, rather than the things that they should be hearing. And a lot of it is very subtle criticism of another political party, or it's saying those people will not do what they're saying for you, this person will do what we are saying they will do. But look behind where that message is coming from. That's our advice.
So they are trying to divide a bit the society?
Oh, very much so, very much so. And if society or a political party, particularly those that are pro-European, are perceived to have vulnerabilities or weaknesses, then those will be exploited by foreign voices and by foreign actors.
Okay, thank you so much for your time.
Not at all, you're very welcome.
It was a pleasure for us.
You're welcome, thank you.